Just on my way back from Hillsong Church. An interesting message today, primarily about fasting, encouraging us to fast. Not in the strictly high religious way of starving oneself for weeks on end, just to be good with God. But recognising it in different ways and what it can be useful for and how. I suppose in a way it is similar to why I have not been at church for a good long while. I've been extremely busy with stuff, with work, visiting family, and of course my new relationship, making sure we can see each other as much as possible. Now I've been able to organise Sundays off, I should be able to go to church more often. Many of you might be saying that surely I'm basically an apostate because I haven't been to church for quite some time. And certainly it's been very nearly a year since I spent time at church beyond dashing up to the organ to hand my dad a piece of sheet music he'd left at home. Many legitimate reasons as to why one doesn't get to church often. The first and most obvious is that it's practical. Or not so. They've had so many commitments, be it work, be it family, be it just keeping the house together. I often tell people that the Sabbath, by its very definition, is a day of rest, and therefore one should rest on those days. But sometimes that just isn't even possible because we have so much to do. And we can't even have it on the same day normally. So even just taking time to rest and recover from a hard week, we need to give ourselves a bit longer. It could also be that the church is too far away and therefore we need to travel there by other means, be it my motor vehicle or even a route that could get blocked off for traffic reasons and so forth. Indeed, the Penny Creek bypass looks like it'll be rather blocked off for a while due to roadworks, at least that's what it appears to be. So I may need to rethink how we're going to do our Edinburgh runs over the next few months. Another could be that the church just doesn't work for you. It could be due to times that you chose a church that suddenly has services super early in the morning. Well, it's early enough that you, from night shift, can't reasonably be expected to get there and stay awake during the service. If you want to respect the service by being awake and alert, then having a nap from working too late can be a problem. It could also be that it's not the right church for you, or that you haven't found the right church for you. Be that involving the ministry, be it the ministers or the clergy, being disagreeable people, being bad people, or even, heaven forbid, perverse. something which does affect how people choose churches, and rightly should. It could be because you have a family and you want to introduce them to that church, but for some reason they don't have an appropriate youth and children's church group. They don't have a creche. They don't even have a place where the child can just sit and play whilst the service goes on. It could be they reject your family outright, where it comes from, even its race and colour. Stuff like that does happen. It could be the people in the church being judgmental. There are many reasons why someone would avoid going to church or be unable to go to church. Does that mean they are doomed? Not really, no. There are many, many ways to worship God. Going to church is merely one of them. It's a great communal one. It's when you can bring people together, you can meet more people, and you can learn from someone who has experience and study in the matters of God. But that does not, by any stretch of the imagination, mean it is the only way one can worship God. Small group sessions with people you know from that church, with friends, with family, that is a perfectly doable one. Personal studies, personal prayer, personal insight, all things that develop you in mind and spirit towards the good of God. We worship God in what we do, if it's for His kingdom and His glory. You could say my blacksmithing is a discipline that helps me worship God. An act of creation, an act of design, act of working with something to aid my craft. Lighting the fire can be a form of meditation. Maintaining it at the right temperature to manage the heat of the metal. That's another discipline. Handling the metal in a safe way. And wielding the hammer sufficiently to shape the metal according to our needs, according to the needs of the project. That is something that can be considered a discipline, a training. Some people go to the gym. Some people fast. Some people just need to spend a little bit more time doing their own thing. Putting away the frivolous things of the world. Ultimately, what I took from the sermon today was an understanding of discipline. Discipline is an important thing in the church. In this case, it means self-control, it means devotion, it means responsibility. It means applying oneself in a manner contrary to one's desires. I mean, this morning, what did I want to do? Ideally, I wanted to stay in bed. I wanted to be warm and cosy. This morning I wanted to spend time with my girlfriend. That's not possible. She's working manically. 37-hour shift, 38-hour shift, something like that. She's a real trooper. God bless her. I could also spend that time working, earning money. I could also spend it trying to work through things for our new campaign to try and get the Scottish Borders Council to bump up the taxi prices again. Better than they originally suggested, which is actually a bit of a loss. That sort of discipline and understanding helps me to decide where to go with those studies. I could spend more time focusing on one of my projects. And that's interesting enough where the fasting comes in. Because the way Grant put it, and this is something I agree with, it's not the act of fasting that is the thing we have to consider. It's not the absence of something, namely a meal, namely something that we want to eat, namely something we want to do. But it's also understanding what we fill that gap with. We all want time to just veg out, do nothing. And that is something that is perfectly reasonable. But what are we going to do to fill that gap? I personally find it very hard to sit still. I find it very hard to just veg out in front of a movie. I need to be in one of those situations where I can actively understand, or just actively shut off my mind and just let myself watch something, learn something. There's a reason why I use my pipes. I may not smoke, but it gives me something else to distract my hands, distract my mouth. Interesting enough, people who might do very well with fasting are actually those with ADHD. Why? Well, they get completely fixated on their work sometimes to the point where they forget to eat. Then again, however, that is over-fixating, hyper-fixating as it's known. And we can't approach God like that. Actively giving up something and focusing on God, that's a different thing entirely. Knowing we have something to give up to focus on God and choosing to do it. You could say I do something broadly similar with the taxis, or even when I work for Amazon. We don't always get the chance to sit down and have dinner. We can't always stop and have a lunch break. If we're lucky, we might just stop by somewhere we can buy a pork pie, a Scotch egg and a cup of coffee. And we might be able to have that on the road. But having the time to stop, rest and actively eat, that's something completely different. I don't remember the last time I did that with Amazon. I think the only time I clear remember doing it was probably when I was working in Aberfoyle. And it was approaching Christmas. So we were basically churning out loads and loads of stuff, driving around, and I managed to get way ahead of my schedule. I was able to stop, sit down, and eat food. It's that sort of discipline that we need to focus on. Not something where we can't help but ignore food, but something where we actively decide to replace food with something else. I'm not saying stop eating full stop, try to channel the energy of the universe and use that to sustain yourself. That's not going to work. Humans need food. We're animals, we're not plants. I've yet to see someone who can photosynthesize by the spirit alone. But it's when we take a moment and consider that the time we could be spending making a sandwich or cooking up some pasta could be better spent sitting down, reading the Bible, doing research into one of the projects, or grafting away at something. You know you've got the food there, you actively choose not to. So the act of fasting, it's what it means. If you just skip a meal and just replace it with, say, watching Netflix, that's not the same. No. If anything, you can still eat and watch Netflix, so it's not judging anything. That's just being lazy, and that's just skipping a meal. That's all. If you're going to do something that focuses on God, and by doing so, ignore something that you want to do, remember how important one thing is, or whether it is important. Because the moment you see how much time you can save and focus on something else, if you stop doing something, be it eat, smoke, or watch pornography, you'll be amazed how much you can get done. That, my friends, is the true mark of discipline. So remember that. Stay safe, and God be with you.